What's going on, podcast listeners? My name is Michael Chernow. I am a restaurateur and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I am truly obsessed with living a life better than yesterday through wellness, fitness, and good vibes. I've always wondered if the drive to succeed is something we are born with, or if it's something that is made over time through grit, drive, and perseverance. I get to answer that question exactly, and the goal of this podcast is to talk with people that have absolutely crushed it in life and have inspired me to do the same. This is Born or Made. Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. And today I have a very special guest, a guy that literally puts a smile on my face every single time I see him. I don't see him enough in person, but every time I see him on social media, the guy is literally moving his body in ways that I wish I could, and also just smiling and just lights up the screen with energy and positivity. He is a coach, he is a fitness professional, he is an entrepreneur, he is a community leader. His name is Anthony Mendez, and he is a man that you absolutely need to know if you don't already. Anthony, welcome to Born and Made.
My brother, thank you so much, man. It's a true honor and blessing. And happy Father's Day, because yesterday was Father's Day, so I wanted to start off by saying that. And thank you for having me on here, man.
Absolutely, dude. And happy Father's Day to you, too. How old is you have a daughter, right?
Yeah, she's gonna be 17 months soon. So
yeah,
time flies, man.
Yeah.
Time flies. I remember like it was the other day.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yesterday, I've got two sons. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And yesterday we were at friends' houses with smaller children, a 7-month-old daughter and a 11-month-old boy, and just seeing the difference between boys and girls at that age is just incredible. It's just like, you got like the boys, you cannot take your eyes off them. And even our friend's daughter, who's only 7 months, was just calm, cool, and collected, just like smart, observing. The boys were just getting into trouble nonstop, especially my boys. Man, oh man, it's a blessing to be a father, though, huh?
I love it every moment. I love it, especially now that she started learning how to walk at the beginning of this whole quarantine madness. So that's when she started walking. So I got to appreciate her big development phases during this time. So I am appreciative of that, and I'm like, it's a little blessing in disguise in some way. So seeing that little process has been amazing, and being able to run around her and back and forth and play with her. And now she's starting to babble all these random jibber jabber words, but I can tell she's dying to talk, and it's just fun to see that, man. Really fun.
I agree. This quarantine time has obviously been devastating for people, especially people that are sick and have lost lives, and I mean it's terrible. However, I will say that there is a silver lining in it, and I never in my life thought that I'd be able to spend the amount of time I've spent with my wife and my children. I just never thought it would ever be possible, just because of work and life. However, we've had this opportunity to really reset and see what's in front of us. You know what I mean? Like literally see what's in front of us, man. It's crazy. So why don't you just take a minute to introduce yourself? Because I think you probably do a better introduction than I do.
So, well, first of all, thank you for that powerful introduction, because the way you described me, man, I don't know.
It's legit.
Thank you. For me, I started as a personal trainer. I still do a lot of coaching, more online now. So yes, I'm a health and fitness coach. I'm a health and fitness entrepreneur, and I'm an athlete for Puma, and I'm also a father as well. So, playing all these roles, and we were speaking off camera before, how you were focused on with, business, family, and then now you're seeing, how there's been more time for friends. So I know it's like playing all these roles sometimes can get in the way of other things. And this time has really allowed us to focus on other new little avenues. But it's what I love about what we do. I love the fact that, we can go out here and play these different roles, and our jobs allow us to do that. And I think it's just fun. That's for me. I enjoy being the creator of my own life, the person who puts out every day what they ask for. And if you want the results, you have to go earn it yourself. It's not you working for somebody else, and you know that's the determining factor. It's like, no, if you want this result, it's all on you. If you fail, it's all on you. If you succeed, it's all on you. So I gotta say that that's the blessing of what we're able to do. And then also too, it gives us the opportunity to put things in place on how we want, and if have that liberty of later on being able to do the things of hanging out with your friends, being with your family, at the same time monitoring your work. So for me, that's why I love it.
I think when I think about you as an entrepreneur and as a digital presence and as a person, because I know you as a person as well, something that you do in a different way, and I think in a more powerful way than most people that are training others out there, is that you really focus on this positive mental attitude aspect of living a life of wellness and being better. I don't think enough people are focused on that. I think a lot of people, and I'm not, passing judgment on anybody, but I do think that mental health is probably just about the most important and gratifying byproduct of fitness and nutrition. For me, and this is why I'm drawn to you so much, it's not all about what you look like. How you feel is very important, but mentally, what fitness and nutrition do for me, you know, is why I'm so focused on it. I put fitness and nutrition first in my life, and I've said this many times, before my family, before my business, before everything, because I just know what it does for me mentally, and because it impacts me so much mentally in a positive way. It allows me to be a better father, husband, business partner, employer, worker among workers. I believe that is a similar philosophy to how you conduct, and it's evident. You don't give a shit if anybody thinks that you look silly on talking to the camera with that energy, because it's real and it's authentic and it's attractive. How did that become part of your philosophy, part of your strategy?
Yeah, and I appreciate, that's a great question and talk right there, because it's funny. I wasn't that person back then. I wasn't that person when you'd go back in when I was a kid, and even in high school. I wasn't exactly that person always bringing out that force, that energy, that positive mind frame. That was something I really developed through the years, as I continued through my journey. And you'd be surprised, because I played football. I was a captain on my football team as well, and I had a leadership role. But I just felt always that I had this piece of mental lack of confidence that I was missing, and also this shadowing of not knowing exactly who I was and what I was going to become. And it was just like always, it was always just kind of like shrouding me from being able to develop, to be able to move up further in life. And it wasn't until I found that out, and that was really when I turned about 22, 23, that it just clicked for me and things started shifting. And I gotta say, man, like, confidence, man, confidence, and that confidence just reinforces everything else, because it doesn't make you scared, it doesn't make you fearful, it doesn't make you not settling for less, man, or not just like taking a day just to take a day. Like, it's hard to explain, man. It's just one of those things when you find that confidence, dude, you just want to go out there and pour that energy out. And for me, it's just like, when something's real, I want to deliver it real. I don't want to hold back and just give you a watered down version. I want to give you how I feel at the moment. What makes me feel that way, why I want to give this to you, so you can feel what I'm feeling. And for me, I tell myself all the time, you need to show up, and you have to always show up, especially if it's something that's tied in with you and you're delivering something to somebody else. You have to give it your all.
So you say that a lot in your messaging, show up. I want to ask you about show up, and I also want to ask you about confidence, because I think
Okay.
confidence is something that a lot of people struggle with, and you certainly don't, because you've been able to sift through all the BS and really be able to like be who you are. What does show up mean?
Show up to me means, and this is just to let people know so that they don't get this confused. So show up means that you're going to show up at the best capacity you can every single day, at your best version every single day. Your best might look different than the other day you had, but every day you show up at your best. And also too, sometimes you need to, and it's not faking, because this is not faking, but sometimes you need to know that there's moments where you need to exert that energy and get it out of you, because you have those backup resources in your body where you're like, you know what, I gotta fuck shit up right now. I gotta turn this shit up, even though I might feel like I don't want to, but I got it. I got to.
How can people tap into that?
So how can people tap into that? So there's different ways, and everybody has different ways of doing this. For me, I always like rooting myself back to my why. So for me, my why is very important. So, which is another thing, you got to know how to figure out your why. So you got to figure out your why first, so you can tap into it, so you can use that to fuel you up. So my why is, I always revert anytime I have a moment of downfall, or anytime I have a moment where I'm just feeling off, every time I have a moment that I'm just not in tuned, I go back to my why. And my why, so you know, my main why is, I want my little girl to have the opportunities that I never had growing up. And I want to be able to be in total full control of my life and whatever it is that I want to do. So my main whys, those are my main whys. So whenever there's a moment of slack, of disbelief, of, you know, low confidence kicking in, I always have to trigger and flip the switch. I use flip the switch a lot too. I'm always like, you got to flip the switch. And I think that's what makes people, because we're all human, but this is what makes people, and this is why I tell people nobody's equal, you know, but we can all learn to get to the top. So this is where I say that the people out at the top, they know how to flip the switch. And what I mean by flip the switch is, we all go through bullshit. We are going to have times of lack of confidence, disbelief. We're going to have times where we don't want to do shit. We're going to have times where we get hit by a brick wall. But when you know how to flip that switch like this, that's the game changers. Those are the people that know they're not going to allow themselves get dug down deeper in a hole and stay there longer than possible. They know how to get themselves out of that hole, or know how to get themselves out before falling in that hole than other people do, because they have that mental mindset and mental frame in place. So learning how to flip the switch and using something that ignites you, which, like I said, for everybody is different. For me, my why ignites me. So I always go back to that why, and I'm like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I wake up every day. This is why I'm not wasting time. This is why time is going by, but I'm producing and moving the wheel every day. So that way my little girl does not have the things that I didn't have. So she can have the opportunities that I didn't have. And so that way I can be in full control of my life. And then I use that to fuel me.
So this podcast is called Born or Made, and the topic that we typically talk about is what we're talking about right now, which is what inspired me to ask you to be on the show, just the fact that you've inspired me. And I believe that you're one of these people that have a lot to offer and a lot to share for the listener. The real conversation is whether or not, the conversation of this podcast is whether or not you believe you were born with an innate ability to get to where you are today, or if you were made over time. And the longer I go through these episodes, and I've shot a bunch now, the more I start to believe that we are all born with something. And I think that draws back to your why. Everybody is born with something. The journey, in my opinion, is trying to find out what that something is. And the people that rise to the top are those that have found it and have understood what that born why is, and then go double down, triple down, all in on their why. How can people find their why? If you have not found something that you're passionate about, if you struggle, you're unsure about where you're going, what kind of tips or hints can you give to people to start to look inside and try to figure out what their why is?
Definitely. And I'm going to give you my favorite tool that I used to discover my why. I've tried different tools, and until I came across this one specific tool that I took from this guy named Dean Graziosi. He has masterminds. He's a real estate expert. This guy through a mastermind course. He had this tool called 7 Levels Deep. I don't know if you've heard about it before, but it's an amazing tool, and I recommend everybody to try it. So 7 Level Deep, basically what it's going to do is you're going to ask yourself, what is your why? What is it that motivates you to want to get up every day in the morning? Then you start off with a broad answer. Okay, now you have your answer. But why is that? Why is it that gets you going? Well, so then you move it down. From that answer, you ask why again. So now your why breaks down again. For example, my why is to, for example, let's start with somebody. My why is I want to be able to become a millionaire one day, and I want to be able to own the Miami Heat. Okay, so why do you want to do that? Well, because I want to impact millions of people, and I want to be able to run a basketball association because I love. So why do you want to do that? Well, because I feel that a lot of people need to learn how to better themselves. A lot of people need more information. And then also for basketball, I feel like the organization is not going the way I want it to see. I want to make an impact in this organization. Why do you want to do that? And you see, you keep going down 7 times. So you ask yourself why 7 times until you get to your deep-rooted why. The why that is true to get you moving every day. And when I did that, that's where I came to the conclusion that my why was giving the opportunities to my little girl that she never had, and had all these amazing whys. But it wasn't until I got to that last one that really touched me. And when I said it and wrote it, it's when I was like, oh, shoot, that's why. And I felt it. Out of all of them, I felt that one the most. And it's just, you have to ask yourself why 7 times for each of those. And you're going to break it down into the last detailed ones. Not saying that the other ones aren't motivators, but you're going to find your true motivator on that 7th one. And that is a powerful tool, because I feel like a lot of people have such a broad one. And sometimes it's like, yeah, it motivates you, but it doesn't really motivate you. And it's because that's not the true one. The true one is hidden within that one, hidden with the next one, hidden under the next one, until you get to that last one that hits your heart. And you're like, shit, this is my why. So I recommend, guys, try that tool out. Look it up. It's called the 7 Levels Deep.
I love that. I have figured out my why. And I kind of knew my why all along, but only until probably the last 5 or 6 years has my why really become have I really been able to distinguish it, because it was sort of a little vague. But my why is to make make other people happy. Period. That is my why. I believe I was put here on the planet to be of service to others, and all the things that I've done in my life have all been in some way, shape, or form to make other people happy. And that goes as deep, that goes into my family, that goes into my businesses, that goes into my personal relationships, that goes into my relationship that I have with the iron and the gym. It is all there literally to be a benefit to others, because I genuinely feel fulfilled when other people are happy. That's when I'm happiest. When somebody walks into the room and that person, I posted something the other day that was talking about culture in business and just in general in life. Culture, I believe, is very important. But when somebody walks into the room and they're not smiling, or they've got like a frown on, or they just not look happy, it just sucks. You know what I mean? It just sucks. I think that sort of that and that's how I know that my why is to make other people happy, because when somebody walks into a room that I'm in and they're like, that face, that like sucking energy out of the room face, it affects me. It actually affects me. I want to then go and make that person happy. I genuinely do. Like, that's like my first instinct. Not like, oh, that person sucks. My first instinct is, what can I do to put a smile on that person's face? And so I believe the why is so important. let's talk about your story. Let's get into your story a little bit and try to understand how Anthony Mendez has become the man you are today, as early as you can remember.
Sounds great, man. I'm gonna take you guys way back. so, so if we're gonna go way back, I'm gonna start off saying by so guys, I'm from Miami, Florida, and I was born and raised there, and I was always in a low to middle class, upbringing, family, of income, and I'm very grateful for everything that my parents have given me, and I just always like to say that because there's nowhere to judge your parents for where they were at the time. It's just judge them for the best they did for you and provided for you growing up. And look at the best that they were able to give to you, and I'm more than happy because I got more than plenty. Um, but starting from there, I'll start you off where I went to high school. I played a lot of sports coming up, so I've always been an athlete. Middle school, elementary, high school, and in high school, I specifically focused on football and wrestling. And it wasn't till I got hurt that really opened up my eyes to the world of coaching and fitness at a higher level. And I got hurt my junior year, tore my meniscus, my left knee, and thank God, it was right at the end of the season. We finished the season, and I remember we were gonna go into spring training for the following season, which was in January. So we still had months until the next season returned. It's not till the fall. So we had all of spring, summer, get ready. So that's when I got the meniscus. And it was funny because it didn't happen where it's like, oh, it's a tear. I think it was a gradual thing. And I noticed that with the tear, it was one of these things where it really humbled me, that I first wasn't a superhuman. And I know at this age of being a teenager, we all sometimes think we're superhuman. So the first thing, it really humbled me, and it brought me down to the roots. I was a big guy. I was weighing 225 pounds. I was pressing massive weight. I was pushing massive. I was benching like 415 at like 17 years old. I was squatting. I broke a squatting record for 605
Oh my God.
in high school.
How tall
Yeah,
are
so I
you?
had PR. I'm like 5'8.5". So I was always just stocky. So I was dude, I was a little tank. But at the same time, dude, I was going through a lot of shit for my body, for being young. Dude, I would sit down in class. For 30 minutes, I had pain shooting down my leg from my lower back. I had massively strained my rear delt, slightly dislocated my shoulder. So I already had all these injuries, broken fingers, the knee. So all this heavy lifting and all this pounding was just taking a toll on my body. So when I had to sit out for a while with the torn meniscus, which they gave me the option of doing surgery or just doing the rehab. I chose the rehab, didn't do the surgery. And going through that sports medicine treatment with the sports medicine athletes, athletic trainers, sorry. It really like opened my eyes. I saw the way that they were helping people. I saw the way they were recuperating these athletes, bring them from the bottom all the way up again. And that was really my first nip in the butt where I'm like, man, you know what? I can see myself doing that. This looks really interesting. I love help. I like to help people. I've always loved giving people advice. Always loved training, weight room, and I've always liked working out with my buddies and helping them and helping each other. So I was like, this seems cool. So I enrolled and I took 2 sports medicine classes that were electives in school. Really loved them. And then from there, I got back up. Actually, the rehab went great, and I was just very, very tight and locked up. So I got a lot of mobility, a lot of flexibility back in me. I played the next season, no knee surgery, so I was able to come back to football. And then senior year, you're done with football. You're not coming back to spring training. You're done. I had to make a choice where it's like, okay, what I'm gonna do now? I had to get a job. I had to make some money during my senior year. I had to work out, stay working out because, if I'm still eating the same as I'm playing football, that's not gonna be good. So from there, I got my first job at Bally Total Fitness. You remember that gym?
Yeah, of course.
Bally Total Fitness. So I got my first job with Bally's. My mom used to be a step aerobics instructor for 24 years. So she got me a job.
So your
And
mom was a step aerobic.
from there,
Your mom was a step aerobic instructor.
Yeah, 24 years.
did that inspire you to do fitness from day one?
Part of it was part of like seeing her always moving and her being always involved with it. Maybe not as hardcore as I am, but that seeing my fitness with what she was doing 3 times a week just kept me going. I'm like, man, my mom is doing this. I would like to do this. Like, she's keeping herself in shape. I want to keep myself in shape. Let me explore this. And she got me my first training job at Bally. So it was really cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, man. So from there, Bally's got bought out. I was with them for a year. They got bought out by LA Fitness. I was with LA Fitness for 3.5 years. And then from there, I had to make a decision of bumping up my game to the next level. And this meant was education, my style of training, especially if I said I wanted to make this a career. I was doing school at the time as well. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was dabbling between sports medicine, physical therapy, exercise science, not exactly knowing, but I knew I wanted to coach people. I knew I wanted to train people. So I literally saved up enough money. I even, believe it or not, this is the first time I say it on here. I always forget. I actually became a club promoter for a local club for literally 7 months in Miami so I can save up more money to go to New York. So I literally did that and actually did pretty good. I'm not going to lie.
I could see you being a club promoter, dude. That's for sure.
So that was fun. That was funny. So I saved up money, went to New York, lived with my cousin there. They introduced me about Equinox, so that's why I went. I did the Equinox Academy, and she told me how they're higher level of training, education. You can make a career out of it. So dropped Miami, was up there for about half a year, lived with my cousin, and that really changed the game for me training-wise. And at the time, I had my Instagram, which I forgot to mention. I was posting on social media pretty consistently. My last year of LA Fitness, moving into New York, and then I slowed down because I wanted to focus on Equinox Academy. And the reason I'm saying that's because this is going to be a spark into the next chapter right now. So with the Equinox Academy, I actually almost stayed in New York. I was living in Brooklyn. And the reason I didn't stay in New York, I was going to try to give it 1 year. I actually got hired at the, what's it called? The Bryant Park, the underground Equinox.
Mm-hmm.
You know that one?
Yeah.
So I did get hired there. And I had denied it because my cousin, who had lived there for a year, said, I'm not going to go through another winter here. She's like, I actually decided I can't. And at the time I was like, well, this is going to be tough living out here on my own. And, you know, the little disbelief there kicked in on me. And I kind of just, which actually I don't have a regret in anything that happened, but that kind of like pushed me not to stay, and I actually came back with my cousin. She moved back to Florida, where they're from. And I moved back to Miami, worked at Equinox for 3 years in the Gables. And in there, I learned so much about unconventional training, kettlebells, correctives, mobility, animal flow, that just opened up a realm for me of how I train and coach myself and coach my clients in today's world. So that started that foundation for me. And that's where also to my social media foundation blew up. So there was a huge, huge shift in the way that my world was going. And literally I wasn't even doing school anymore at the time. This was my main focus. And I started hitting the social media hard. It was back in 2013 or 2014. It was like, it just turned 2014. And it's crazy because I'm doing the Equinox training. I'm also now a buddy of mine who was also a marketer for a club out here. He started a little sportswear company and he said, hey, why don't you come partner up with me? So we partnered up, opened up a little sportswear company. I was the athlete doing the fitness stuff. He was filming it, editing everything, showing me tricks and stuff about social media with Instagram. So we started hitting the content game hard. I had another buddy of mine at Equinox who was already filming himself doing exercises. And he was thinking about leaving Equinox probably like 3-4 months before. And he's like, bro, let's film each other. I'll film you, you film me. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So that blew me up because a lot of people weren't seeing those type of training movements on a regular basis. And it was something new for them. So a lot of people seeing the kettlebells, the flows, the movements. And then, of course, don't get me wrong, being outside of Miami and the scenery helps as well. Mm-hmm. So seeing all that combination started gradually blowing me up. And I had him, my two friends, pushing me with the social media stuff. And that's when I felt like there's something special here. That's when I truly felt for the first time that I can be independent one day. And because I feel like in life, we all have our aha moments. And that was one big aha moment where I was like, I have this going for me. I'm doing this. I'm getting traction. People are believing in me, and I'm believing in myself. Like, I have something good here
So
going
I
on.
want to talk
And
about that for a second, because I think that's also very important for people that are looking to get a career going on their own. Obviously, social influence is a big deal, right? And you have something like 300,000 followers on Instagram that are actually not just followers; they're very engaged with your content. I mean, I don't know what percentage of your followership is actually engaging on a regular basis, but from what I see, a large percentage of your followers are genuinely engaged with you, which I think is probably the hardest thing to get. Getting followers, people get followers, but engaged followers that are consistently commenting and reposting and doing all those things, very difficult. At that point, when you started to see you getting traction, how many followers on Instagram did you have, and what tools or techniques did you use to enhance that side of your business?
definitely. So when I first started hitting it hard, I think I had about 10,000 followers, 10 to 12. And it just started compounding. And my whole thing, I was literally posting constantly every day. I was posting every day. And
Did it have anything
I
to
just
do with
had,
did it have anything to do with the time you were posting and the sticking to a schedule, or were you just posting when you felt like it?
so I was posting either every day between 11 and 1, because usually people take lunchtime around there, or I was posting anywhere between 6 and 8 o'clock at night once everybody was on their downtime. So usually having those moments where people are gonna be on the phone is when I highly recommend, you posting, but also learning your audience. Another key thing that I learned later on, at that time I didn't know, but later on down the road, is also seeing when your audience is most engaged with you. You have those analytics. You can see when your audience is highly liking, commenting, engaging with your post. It'll tell you more or less around that time frame, and you make that decision if you want to post it during that time. So I highly recommend it. It'll give you different options. For me, it's usually, like I said, between 11 to 1, between now it's like 5:30 to like 8:30. So playing with that, also seeing if midday or nighttime works better for you, or just sticking it yourself. Like sometimes I say too, like, don't stress over that too much. As long as you're in the parameters, you're good. Doesn't mean it has to be exactly on the dot. Some people are like, no, you have to do it at 12 on the dot. And I'm like, look, you find your range on those two ends and you do it. You don't want to overstress yourself either, because then what's the point?
Mm,
So I always say that too.
okay.
As far as anything else goes, tools, my whole thing was engage, engage, engage. I started always since the beginning, and I think that's what really helped me blow up, was I always comment back on everybody's posts. So anytime somebody posted, I would always write back. Anytime somebody DM'd me, I'd always write back. Obviously, if it was a respectful DM or something, if it was something absurd, then I would just forget about it. But I would always DM somebody back, and I was always letting them know that I recognize them as well, which I think is very highly important. I feel like a lot of times people get caught up in this, limelight or something, and push off some of these people to the side. And it's like, well, you got to remember, your audience is also what helped support you and bring you up. So, give back to them, show them that you care, show them that you want to love them, show them that, you appreciate their support. And I think starting that from a beginning, from when you first start, is very important, because then you see who sticks with you all the way through and who's your loyal audience. So that's one thing I always tell myself: get back as much as I can to my audience. And that for me, it's big. More importantly, like you said, not just following count, but it's more the retention. I'm a retention guy, and that's always been me. I'm even a very good retention guy. Even when I was a coach back in Equinox, when I would sell training, I could retain the shit out of my people. I would retain the shit out of my people, because I go my other way. For it was your birthday, I would get my clients a gift. It was Christmas, I'd give them a little something. I'd always send them a thank you note. I'd always send them a follow-up email. And the same thing as Instagram, you gotta engage with your show them, DM them, hey, hope you're doing well. If they respond or they DM you, DM them back, show them love. Retention, I think, is the most important thing when it comes to all of this.
All right, so now it's like 2015, and you're starting to blow up on Instagram in a real way. So when you started really going after it, you had 10 to 12,000 followers. And how long did it take you to really start gaining traction in a real significant way?
So when I started collaborating, so when I had about 10 to 12,000 followers in 2014, I started collaborating with Harder, me and my friend, where we film each other. Then we started popping up each other on each other's videos. So we would do smash ups instead of me just putting by myself. We're like, hey, bro, why don't we do workouts together? So we started working out together. And from there, we were cross exchanging followers. People liked it. We were doing partner workouts. And then we'll start hitting up other local fitness influencers coming up, collaborate with them as well. And I'm going to tell you, it was very hard at that time to really find a good group. I feel like now more people are way more open to collaborating. Back then, especially in Miami, a lot of people were very like, no, I'm going to do my thing. Oh, I'm, scared that you're going to take my clients, or what is in it for me? So it was just one of those things where you really had to find the good people that wanted to do this with you. And when I did, we would collab, we would do workout videos together. We would do, shoot each other, tag each other, help each other out, and vice versa. So that really, I think, pushed me to the next level where I went from in 2014, like 10 to 12,000 followers all the way to 2015, like around 50,000 followers. It really compounded for me. It really compounded for me.
Cool. And then, so at that point, were you already doing online coaching, or was it still just all in person?
So at that point, I was still training at Equinox. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because there was a lot of salty time. There was a salty period of time towards the end of my last year at Equinox, because I wasn't even thinking about doing any coaching stuff yet. I was just thinking about, I enjoying this, and I was selling my sportswear. So I was pushing my sportswear line, and I wasn't training any clients on here. It was just me and other people I'd collaborate with. And I remember there was a conversation in 2016. I think it was like 5-6 months before I left. And my friend, the one that was doing the recordings with me, he told them, he's like, hey, look, I've been here for 5 years or 6 years. My Instagram's taken off. I've opened up a business. So, thank you guys. And he left. I continued to collaborate with him. And I guess they kind of got heard. And they would always like question me, like, oh, why do you collaborate with him? Why are you still shooting with him? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And it was just one of these things where, like, this is a tool for me. And I brought in 3 clients from here, and I moved them over to Equinox. So I was trying to actually say, hey, look, this can be an asset where I can bring members and train them over here, because they're asking me for training services. Let's do this. I think this would be great. So at the time, it was just a lot of, corporate stuff, where they didn't like certain things, and they were scared that I was going to steal clients and all this stuff. And I was like, guys, I don't even put anybody but myself and people I collab with on here. There's no me training, no clients, no whatsoever. So it finally came down to one day where it was just like, it was just getting too heated up, too much back and forth of them not wanting for me to do my social media. And they told me, you have a decision. And I said, what's the decision? And they said, either you're here at Equinox or you choose your Instagram. And let me tell you, this happened in the summer. No, sorry, not in the summer. This happened, I think it was in November when I had this conversation. It happened in November going into December. That's right. It was around Christmas time. And I remember that they had pulled me to the side. And when they had this conversation with me, it was just like their whole focus was this botherment where I was trying to explain to them, like, I'm hitting my bonuses. I'm a full-time trainer. I'm doing really well, especially during a downtime in December. December is always a downtime for trainers. I was still hitting my numbers at a good pace. So I was just trying to find a way where it's like, well, if I'm still hitting my numbers, I'm still doing this, I think you can tell that I'm not, trying to mess around here. It was just the fact that they didn't want me on here. So I literally, the next day when they told me, hey, you got to choose, I wrote up a resignation letter. Thank you so much for Equinox Academy. Thank you for you guys having me. Thank you for everything I learned here. I'm so grateful, but I have to choose a route of going with what I've created. And that was scary, man, because I had no reason to leave. And my mind wasn't even thinking about leaving until another year. I had to go after I saw it. I did want to leave one day, but I wasn't going to leave probably till another year, believe it or not. And honestly, that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. And I feel like in life, we need to sometimes see these signs. Sometimes these signs come to where it's like, this is your moment to jump. And I think, and I really sat there and I had to take it in, even if I was scared, and I had friends and people telling me like, back and forth, like you should or you shouldn't. This is a stable job. You're doing good. Or dude, like, look at your Instagram. Look what you can do. Like, roll with it. You're ready to go independent. You've been at Equinox for 3 years. It's your time. And I really sat back and I asked myself, what's my overall goal? And I'm saying my overall goal is one day I want to be my own independent person. I want to have my own independent business. And that was the best choice for me, man. And I don't regret it till this day. If anything, I feel like that moment really started defining me in another level of confidence and another level of showing me that I was capable of doing more and that I had more. And it was just one of those things, man, where I was like, I am going to make this jump no matter what. I will figure it out along the way. And I feel like a lot of times we need to just sometimes jump in these situations without planning so much. A lot of times we want to sit back and over plan, overthink, overanalyze. And at the end of the day, you learn along the way. You take the hits, but you always figure it out. Like, I've always come to realize, like, my back's against the wall, I still figure that shit out. The next day something happens. I closed the freaking deal. I did this. I'm back on my feet. Let's go. Thank God. Whatever you want to believe in. But it happens, man. And it's just like from that moment on, my energy, my positivity, my whole shit just went up the roof, dude. And I was just like, man, this is what I needed. This is the push. And my only biggest jump before that was me going to New York. That was probably my biggest jump ever in my life, was me moving to New York. But this right there, that second jump was my defining jump of, I think, of what's made me where I am today.
It's so, these stories are obviously different geographical places, different timing, different ages, different circumstances. However, there's always that moment where people take the leap. And I think not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, right? I believe that. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurialism is obviously something that people are paying close attention to these days, because for the first time ever, it's actually like a cool thing to like be out there on your own. Back in the day when, there was the shoe store on the corner, you never thought to yourself, oh, whoever opened up that store is killing it. You were just like, oh, that's a shoe store, Yeah. Oh, that's that bodega on the corner. You never thought of the owner of that bodega being somebody that took a leap and said, I don't want to work for someone else. I want to go do it myself. And today, that's a very, very ambitious thing to do, and something that people really, really treasure. If there's somebody out there listening that is right at the precipice of where you were at Equinox, or you had to make a decision where it was, I can go out, take a massive risk and put all my money on me, or sit back and take a little bit of my, take a little bit of the stuff that I've created and push it to the side and continue to work for someone in a comfortable environment. What would you say to push somebody potentially over the edge and take the leap?
So I'm gonna tell that person, first of all, before they make any decision, I'm gonna ask them awareness, man. Awareness. Like, who are you? Truthfully, like, who are you? Who do you want to be one day? And what is it that you want to do? And be aware of your skill sets. And I feel like too, like many times when I say, when you feel it, when that first thing that comes to your mind is usually the first one, you roll with it, because when you start thinking of all these things that come after, it's that first one that hits your head And I say, if that first one hits you and it tells you, yeah, I can do this, or like I should go, like you gotta fucking go for it. Like you gotta like do not give your brain. It's the same thing with working out. The hardest part is to get through the doors. But when your mind tells you, when you figure out that, man, like you told your mind, we gotta work out, like let's do this, you better fucking go through those doors and do it. Like you gotta just react. Do not give your mind a second to 2 seconds to even think about switching it, because your mind is doing what it's supposed to do. Your brain is worked to give you comfortability because your brain doesn't want you to hurt. Your brain doesn't want your body to feel uncomfortable. Your brain is doing its job, but what your brain doesn't know is that it's fucking you up. So you got to trick your brain, and you got to react fast before your brain does what it does. So you got to trick your brain. So literally from that moment that you hit it and you feel it and your brain tells you, you got to go for it. You cannot wait. You got to get up and go.
You know, it's funny that you say that. So mind over matter is something that is very real. It's very real. And it can work in two ways, right? It can work incredibly positively. And I'll give you a great example and story of that. When I was running the New York City Marathon in 2018, I was running the marathon. I had already done a marathon, but this was like a big one for me. And I was in mile 25, just come around a big turn in Central Park. And I was tired. My body was feeling it. And the last 5 miles of the New York City Marathon are like a gradual uphill, not like a steep uphill, just like a long gradual uphill coming down Fifth Avenue and into the park. And once I made this big turn, and it's funny, like you don't think like of a big turn in running as something that would tire you out, but like a big turn when you've just run 25 miles is like, it's a turn. Your body is doing, you're not running straight. Anyway, I started looking to my left and my right, and I saw a lot of runners on the ground, and like runners that have either given up or needed to take a break or were injured. And that's a zone where people really get hurt, is in that last mile, you know, in the last 5 miles, but like in that last mile, you start to see people really dropping out, which is crazy. But all of a sudden I started getting into my head, and my mind started playing tricks on me, and my mind was telling me to stop. And then all of a sudden, both of my quads at the same time seized up. And I was like, holy smokes. I was like, there's no way that this could be the end. There is no way that this can be the end. So I stopped and I started pounding my legs as hard as I could, pounding my legs. And I was like, how am I going to get my body to move? My thighs have both cramped and seized up. And I literally started, so in the same minute time, 60 seconds, my mind told me to stop, and my body reacted to my mind. Right after that, I started saying to myself, mind over matter, mind over matter, mind over matter. And I convinced my mind to tell my body that I was okay. And all of a sudden, I started moving. Boom. My legs came back, and I finished the race in about a minute and a half later than I wanted to, but I finished the race. The mind is so powerful. It can work in both positive and negative ways. I was thinking the other day in New York City when I was, I'm upstate now, but I was in the city and I was in Soho, and it's completely a different place. It's like no man's land. It's a very, very weird situation because I was born and raised there. I know those streets better than most people. And I was saying, wow, this is crazy what's happened to this place. And the first thing I thought about was mind over matter. We have to convince our minds that we're going to come back from this crazy time, because right now our minds have been convinced that this is the end of days, you know? And so I love that you have that message that says the mind is so crucial in both positive and negative. If you give it too long, it's going to tell you to stay comfortable, stay sit, don't do it. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. Or you convince your mind that it's time to go. And I believe that short window of time is the difference between good and great in human beings. When you open up that window, you let that air come in, and you respond to the situation, boom, you go. And I know you're one of those people. I just know you're one of those people. And that's why freaking love you so much, man, because I just think that, like, you know, that is the moments, that is the crucial time where the mind is so powerful, so powerful. I remember, well, I'll give you one last story and then I'm going to kick it back to you. But when I was probably 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, I was in the Boy Scouts. And I remember there was like a merit badge that I wanted to get. And part of the merit badge was to go into the woods and sleep by yourself for a night. That was like you know, I don't know if it was a merit badge. It was something where I had to achieve something. And one of the components was sleep, you know, doing a solo night in the woods. And I remember I was pretty scared. I went out into the woods and, I couldn't sleep. And I was thinking about Jason, Friday the 13th. And I was so scared that I literally heard in my head, I kept on hearing that. And I'm like, oh, this is insane. He's here. He's here. But that was my mind. That was the power of the mind. That it has so much impact on us. And I think the difference between good and great is being able to tell whether it's positive or negative thinking. So I appreciate you saying that. It is truly the switch when you're able to have some sort of control over that.
I totally agree, dude, and I appreciate you sharing that, because first of all, that's funny, man. I've had moments like that, and I'm gonna tell you, it's so true, dude. Like, we can create these illusions, we can create fake sicknesses in ourselves, because we're thinking that we're sick, and it's so funny because you see how it's easier to do it in the negative side than it is on the positive side to get that positive result out of it. But with the negative, you get such a quicker negative result because we immediately tune in to negative as faster than it is to positive. And I feel it's like we need to find that way to switch to be more on this other side. Like in anything, when you eat bad, you get worse results faster. When you're eating good, it's harder to get there. But when you get there, it's amazing. And it's just like another thing I like to go into is also about the mind is during this time, something I realized, and I tell people, like, Corona, everything that's going on, it's all about the energy you want to give energy to. And I feel like you need to understand with everything that's going on around, you need to control what you're capable of controlling of. And do not try to force things that you cannot control. And I tell people all the time, but you know what you can control every single time? You can control the way you do things, the way you react, the way you are, the person you want to be. You can control that every single time. And when you can do that and put energy towards bettering yourself, towards whatever it is you want to do, build your business, spend time with your family, work on you, you'll get the results you want. You got to just focus on putting energy in the right places. But when you start leaking little pieces of energy into this, into that, into here, into there, we've done it many times. We continue to do it. But the difference is we know how to realign ourselves back in place. And I think it's by catching themselves fast enough before they leak all their energy out into areas that they shouldn't and bring it back to hone in on themselves, that's when you start creating magic. And it's just like over this time period, believe me or not, this has been one of the best focused, knowledge growing, business growing, and family growing times in my life. And people would say, well, how are you making more money now? Or how are you so positive now? Or how are you during a time like this? And I say, because I've chosen to put energy towards that. And that's why I'm a person where I'm like, it could be the worst recession, the worst this, there's always a way. And it's where you put your energy to, where you spend most of your time to, and where you focus in. And it all goes back into the mind. The mind, the mind, the mind, the mind. Like you said, your mind will create what you want it to believe. And if I'm going to tell myself every day, this is what I want the result for my family. This is what I want financially. This is what I want for my business. But I execute it, not just think about it, but I execute and take action on it. That's where the magic happens. And it's just a consistency. It's a consistency of it over and over again throughout that process. And that's the magic pill, you know, because people ask you, oh, where's the magic pill? No, that's the magic pill. If you work out well, you eat extremely well, you sleep well, and you're focused, you're going to get the body and the feeling and the experience you want out of it down the road. If you know your day, let's say your work day is an 8-hour work day, you need to give it 110% during those 8 hours. So that way you can go home and now prioritize on your other success, which is, let's say, example is your family, or let's say it's a hobby you're working on, whatever it is. Now you can put time into it because you gave 110% on what you had for your detailed calendar for work, instead of going 70%. And then you have to make up the other 30 or 40 after because you didn't hone in on that time frame the way you said you were going to do it. And I think that's why a lot of people have this thing where I'm so exhausted, I work hard all the time. And it's like, we got to work smarter. We got to work smarter. You know, it's not harder, but smarter. And narrow that down, because you don't need to work that long. You just need to be able to prioritize and give it your best at whatever block frame you blocked out, that specific task. I'm actually coaching currently with Yahya Bakar, but he's really good, really, really good. He tells you how it is. The guy has energy, positivity. You guys can look up his Instagram. It's exactly that, his name.
What is his name?
Yahya Bakar. YAYHA, and then Bakar with, I believe, 2 Ks. And I've been listening to him only for the last 4 months.
Favorite movement in the gym or out of the gym?
Favorite movement. Weighted movement or body weight movement?
Both. Weighted or body weight.
Okay, so my favorite body weight movement has to do is a side kick through. The one you see me point my leg out, arm back, moving side to side. That's my favorite one. So side kick through. With weight, with the kettlebell, that's a hard one. I gotta say my favorite kettlebell movement, the pistol whip. That's my favorite loaded weighted movement.
Awesome. Cheat meal of choice.
Cheat meal, dude, that's hard. I love food. I love food, man. You give me. I love a good lasagna. I love spaghetti. But I also, too, I love Mediterranean food. So in that ballpark, I'm golden.
Anthony Mendez, my friend, my brother. Are you born or you made?
I'm going to tell you, man, this is a good one. I feel like, truthfully, my truthful answer, I feel like more than anything, I feel like we all have our purpose in life, but I feel that certain things in life have made me what I am today.
So you're made.
So I was made.
Made.
It's just always, I never know what to expect from people. And I love when I get answers that are just, it's been so 50-50. It's been 50-50 the whole way along, man. So I think being made is so inspiring for others because it gives people this belief that they are also completely 100% able and have the ability to get to where you're at, because you are certainly one of the most inspiring guys on social media for me in fitness. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to sit with me today. This podcast is definitely going to put a smile on a lot of people's faces, and the insight and the info and the tools and the stories that you shared with us are awesome. So thank you, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Where can people find you?
So you guys can find me on Instagram, Mendez Fitness. So MENDEZ Fitness. You can find me on my YouTube as well, Mendez Fitness. You can reach out to me through email at mendezfitnesspro@gmail.com. Now I'm doing a little bit of the TikTok stuff too, putting some workouts on there too. So you can find me Mendez Fitness as well. And you can find me on my website as well, mendezfitness.com. So Mendez Fitness across the boards. That's where you guys can find me.
My brother, keep inspiring me and the hundreds of thousands of others that you inspire on a daily, regular basis. You're truly a special guy, and I appreciate you. And thank you very, very much for joining me on this podcast.
Brother, I appreciate you every single day, man. The connection, man. I can't wait to, when things start settling back in, to connect with you either in New York or you come down here in Miami. And just before I just jump off, I wanted to just say one thing that I love to say all the time. And it's something that I challenge myself every day with is for everybody out there, do something. Doesn't matter if it's small, medium, or big, but every day challenge yourself with something that makes you feel uncomfortable that you know you should do, because it's going to lead you to success. And grab that one thing that you know that you've been wanting to do or that's in behind the back of your head and tell yourself, today I'm going to try it. Like I said, small, medium, or big. Today I'm just going to give it a try, because I'm going to tell you, the moment you do that little uncomfortable thing or that whatever size it is, you're going to feel so good after for doing it. Whatever result it comes out to, you're going to feel so good because you broke that. And now your mind just feels so great. And next you know it, you might get the result you wanted, but who knows? And it's the same thing that goes with just asking as well.